All right, welcome to our asynchronous session on the different types of narrative structure. I have some examples, or excuse me, some definitions of narrative structure up on the screen for you. There are different types of narrative structures, and as the reader, we may subconsciously recognize these types, but can we identify them? That's the big question. Our goal today, our objective, is to be able to recognize and identify various types of narrative structure and their impact on our understanding of the text. So we're going to start by just taking a look at these different types of narrative structure. And I ask you to take a look and think to yourself, how many of these do I know? How many of these am I familiar with? And how many of these am I already able to identify in a narrative that I am reading? So the different types of narrative structure, I have 4 listed for you, and these are the ones that are most common that you will be most able to recognize. We have linear or chronological narration. This probably sounds familiar. Chronological order is when the story is written as the events unfold, the beginning to the end. You know, it's like a timeline. It starts today and it tells the story of what happened all day long today, and then it ends at bedtime tonight, as an example. The focus of this text remains on the present and does not dwell on the past or on the future. The second is flashbacks, and this one I'm sure you've heard of before. Flashbacks, excuse me, let me move my mouse out of your way. A flashback is a type of narrative structure that's not concerned with staying in linear order or chronological order, as we saw in the previous example, meaning it's going to showcase events outside the order of time. You might be reading a narrative and a author will flash back or go backwards in time to showcase an event in the character's life that was influential or important to him or her. The purpose of this is to highlight the events that impact the character and how they impact the character, so that we can learn more about the character and that character's development. The third type is parallel and frame structures. This is when we have 2 different stories being told basically at the same time. A lot of times the author might alternate paragraphs, or not paragraphs, excuse me, alternate. I did write paragraphs in there, didn't I? Alternate, it should be chapters. I guess my brain is in a different place. You're going to alternate chapters between one character and the other. So if you think about the Odyssey, I know that that's a very popular text to read in 9th and 10th grade, so hopefully you've read it. But when you think about the Odyssey, we go back and forth between the storyline of Odysseus and the storyline of Telemachus. And they are separate stories, but they have relevance to each other. So the stories would be told separately, but they would have relevance to each other. Then the last one is a circular story, and this is just as it sounds. It's a circle. The story ends where it began. That doesn't necessarily mean that it ends at the exact moment where it began, but it ends in the same circumstance. So there's a short story called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which is an amazing short story. There actually was a movie made out of it, very, very loosely based on the short story, where a man daydreams all the time. And the story begins with Walter Mitty in a daydream, and it ends with Walter Mitty in a daydream, or waking up from the daydream. So it begins in the same circumstance that it ends in, and that would be a circular story. So you're going to answer a couple questions about those 4 types. Practice identifying the types of narrative structure and some examples in the next video.